Isaiah, Messages of Judgment. Chapter 1, Quit Your Worship Charades. The vision that Isaiah, son of Amos, saw regarding Judah and Jerusalem during the times of the kings of Judah, Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah. Heaven and earth, you are the jury. Listen to God's case. I had children and raised them well, and they turned on me. The ox knows who's boss. The mule knows the hand that feeds him, but not Israel. My people don't know up from down. Shame. Misguided God dropouts, staggering under their guilt baggage. Gang of miscreants, band of vandals. My people have walked out on me, their God, turned their backs on the Holy of Israel, walked off and never looked back. Why bother even trying to do anything with you when you just keep to your bull-headed ways? You keep beating your heads against brick walls. Everything within you protests against you. From the bottom of your feet to the top of your head, nothing's working right. Wounds and bruises and running sores, untended, unwashed, unbandaged. Your country is laid waste. Your cities burned down. Your land is destroyed by outsiders while you watch, reduced to rubble by barbarians. Daughter Zion is deserted, like a tumble-down shack on a dead-end street, like a tar paper shanty on the wrong side of the tracks, like a sinking ship abandoned by the rats. If God of the angel armies hadn't left us a few survivors, we'd be as desolate as Sodom, doomed just like Gomorrah. Listen to my message, you Sodom schooled leaders. Receive God's revelation, you Gomorrah schooled people. Why this frenzy of sacrifices, God's asking. Don't you think I've had my fill of burnt sacrifices, rams and plump grain-fed calves? Don't you think I've had my fill of blood from bulls, lambs, and goats? When you come before me, who ever gave you the idea of acting like this, running here and there, doing this and that? All this sheer commotion in the place provided for worship. Quit your worship charades. I can't stand your trivial religious games. Monthly conferences, weekly Sabbaths, special meetings. I can't stand one more. Meetings for this, meetings for that. I hate them. You've worn me out. I'm sick of your religion, while you go right on sinning. When you put on your next prayer performance, I'll be looking the other way. No matter how long or loud or often you pray, I'll not be listening. And you know why? Because you've been tearing people to pieces. Your hands are bloody. Go home and wash up. Clean up your act. Sweep your lives clean of your evil doings, so I don't have to look at them any longer. Say no to wrong. Learn to do good. Work for justice. Help the down and out. Stand up for the homeless. Go to bat for the defenseless. Let's argue this out. Come, sit down. Let's argue this out. This is God's message. If your sins are blood red, they'll be snow white. If they're red like crimson, they'll be like wool. If you'll willingly obey, feast like kings. But if you're willful and stubborn, they'll die like dogs. That's right. God says so. Those who walk out on God. Wow, can you believe it? The chaste city has become a whore. She was once all justice, everyone living as good neighbors, and now they're all at one another's throats. Your coins are all counterfeits. Your wine is watered down. Your leaders are turncoats who keep company with crooks. They sell themselves to the highest bidder and grab anything not nailed down. They never stand up for the homeless, never stick up for the defenseless. This decree, therefore, of the Master, God of the angel armies, the strong one of Israel. This is it. I'll get my oppressors off my back. I'll get back at my enemies. I'll give you the back of my hand. Purge the junk from your life. Clean you up. I'll set honest judges and wise counselors among you, just like it was back in the beginning. Then you'll be renamed City That Treats People Right, the True Blue City. God's right ways will put Zion right again. God's right actions will restore her penitence. There's curtains for rebels and God traitors, a dead end for those who walk out on God. Your dalliances in those oak grove shrines will leave you looking mighty foolish. All that fooling around in God and goddess gardens that you thought was the latest thing. You'll end up like an oak tree, with all its leaves falling off, like an unwatered garden, withered and brown. The big man will turn out to be dead bark and twigs, and his work, the spark that starts the fire, that exposes man and work both, is nothing but cinders and smoke. Chapter 2. Climb God's Mountain. The message Isaiah got regarding Judah and Jerusalem. There's a day coming when the mountain of God's house will be the mountain, solid, towering over all mountains. All nations will river toward it. People from all over set out for it. They'll say, "Come, let's climb God's mountain. Go to the house of the God of Jacob. He'll show us the way he works so we can live the way we're made." Zion's the source of the revelation. God's message comes from Jerusalem. He'll settle things fairly between nations. He'll make things right between many peoples. They'll turn their swords into shovels, their spears into hoes. No more will nation fight nation. They won't play war anymore. Come, family of Jacob, let's live in the light of God. God, you walked out on your family, Jacob, because their world is full of hokey religion, Philistine witchcraft and pagan hocus pocus, a world rolling in wealth, stuffed with things, no end to its machines and gadgets, and gods of all sorts and sizes. These people make their own gods and worship what they make. A degenerate race, face down in the gutter. Don't bother with them. They're not worth forgiving. Pretentious egos brought down to earth. Head for the hills, hide in the caves, from the terror of God, from his dazzling presence. People with a big head are headed for a fall. Pretentious egos brought down. It's God alone, front and center, on the day we're talking about. The day that God of the angel armies is matched against all big-talking rivals, against all swaggering big names, against all giant sequoias, hugely towering, and against the expansive chestnut, against Kilimanjaro and Annapurna, against the ranges of Alps and Andes, against every soaring skyscraper, against all proud obelisks and statues, against ocean-going luxury liners, against elegant three-masted schooners. The swelled big heads will be punctured bladders, the pretentious egos brought down to earth, leaving God alone at front and center on the day we're talking about. And all those sticks and stones, dressed up to look like gods, will be gone for good. Clamber into caves and the cliffs, duck into any hole you can find. Hide from the terror of God, from his dazzling presence, when he assumes his full stature on earth, towering and terrifying. On that day, men and women will take the sticks and stones they've decked out in gold and silver to look like gods and then worship, and they will dump them in any ditch or gully, then run for rock caves and cliff hideouts to hide from the terror of God, from his dazzling presence, when he assumes his full stature on earth, towering and terrifying. Quit scraping and fawning over mere humans, so full of themselves, so full of hot air. Can't you see there's nothing to them? Chapter 3. Jerusalem on its last legs. The Master, God of the angel armies, is emptying Jerusalem and Judah of all the basic necessities, plain bread and water to begin with. He's withdrawing police and protection, judges and courts, pastors and teachers, captains and generals, doctors and nurses, and yes, even the repairmen and jacks of all trades. He says, I'll put little kids in charge of the city. Schoolboys and schoolgirls will order everyone around. People will be at each other's throats, stabbing one another in the back. Neighbor against neighbor, young against old, the no account against the well-respected. One brother will grab another and say, look what you've got a head on your shoulder. Do something. Get us out of this mess. And he'll say, me? Not me. I don't have a clue. Don't put me in charge of anything. Jerusalem's on its last legs. Judah is soon down for the count. Everything people say and do is at cross purposes with God. Slap in my face. Brazen in their depravity, they flout their sins like degenerate Sodom. Tuned to their eternal souls, they've made their bed. Now they'll sleep in it. Reassure the righteous. that their good living will pay off. But doom to the wicked, disaster. Everything they did will be done to them. Skinny kids terrorize my people. Silly girls bully them around. My dear people, your leaders are taking you down a blind alley. They're sending you off on a wild goose chase. A city brought to her knees by her sorrow. God enters the courtroom. He takes his place at the bench to judge his people. God calls for order in the court, calls the leaders of his people into the dock. You've played havoc with this country. Your houses are stuffed with what you've stolen from the poor. What is this anyway? Stomping on my people, grinding the faces of the poor into the dirt. That's what the Master, God of the angel armies, says. God says, Zion women are stuck up, prancing around in their high heels, making eyes at all the men in the street, swinging their hips, tossing their hair, gaudy and garish with cheap jewelry. The Master will fix it so that those Zion women will all turn bald. Scabby, bald-headed women. The Master will do it. The time is coming when the Master will strip them of their fancy baubles, the dangling earrings, anklets and bracelets, combs and mirrors and silk scarves, diamond brooches and pearl necklaces, the rings on their fingers and the rings on their toes, the latest fashions in hats, exotic perfumes, and aphrodisiacs, gowns and capes, all the world's finest in fabrics and design. Instead of wearing seductive scents, these women are going to smell like rotting cabbages. Instead of modeling flowing gowns, they'll be sporting rags. Instead of their stylish hairdos, scruffy heads. Instead of beauty marks, scabs and scars. Your finest fighting men will be killed. Your soldiers left dead on the battlefield. The entrance gate to Zion will be clouded with people mourning their dead. A city stooped under the weight of her loss, brought to her knees by her sorrows. Chapter 4. That will be the day when 7 women will gang up on one man, saying, We'll take care of ourselves, get our own food and clothes. Just give us a child, make us pregnant so we'll have something to live for. God's branch. And that's when God's branch will sprout green and lush. The produce of the country will give Israel's survivors something to be proud of again. Oh, they'll hold their heads high. Everyone left behind in Zion, all the discards and rejects in Jerusalem, will be reclassified as holy, alive, and therefore precious. God will give Zion's women a good bath. He'll scrub the blood-stained city of its violence and brutality, purge the place with a firestorm of judgment. Then, God will bring back the ancient pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night, and mark Mount Zion and everyone in it with his glorious presence, his immense protective presence, shade from the burning sun and shelter from the driving rain. Chapter 5. Looking for a crop of justice. I'll sing a ballad to the one I love, a love ballad about his vineyard. The one I love had a vineyard, a fine, well-placed vineyard. He hoed the soil and pulled the weeds. He planted the very best vines. He built a lookout, built a wine press, a vineyard to be proud of. He looked for a vintage yield of grapes, but for all his pains, he got junk grapes. Now listen to what I'm telling you, you who live in Jerusalem and Judah. What do you think is going on between me and my vineyard? Can you think of anything I could have done to my vineyard that I didn't do? When I expected good grapes, why did I get bitter grapes? Well now, let me tell you what I'll do to my vineyard. I'll tear down its fence and let it go to ruin. I'll knock down the gate and let it be trampled. I'll turn it into a patch of weeds, untended, uncared for. Thistles and thorns will take over. I'll give orders to the clouds. Don't rain on that vineyard, ever. Do you get it? The vineyard of God of the angel armies is the country of Israel. All the men and women of Judah are the garden he was so proud of. He looked for a crop of justice and saw them murdering each other. He looked for a harvest of righteousness and heard only the moans of victims. You who call evil good and good evil, doom to you who buy up all the houses and grab all the land for yourselves, evicting the old owners, posting no trespassing signs, taking over the country leaving everyone homeless and landless. I overheard God of the angel armies say, those mighty houses will end up empty. Those extravagant estates will be deserted. A 10-acre vineyard will produce a pint of wine, a 50-pound sack of seed, a quart of grain. Doomed to those who get up early and start drinking booze before breakfast, who stay up all hours of the night, drinking themselves into a stupor. They make sure their banquets are well furnished, with harps and flutes and plenty of wine, but they'll have nothing to do with the work of God, paying no mind to what He is doing. Therefore, my people will end up in exile because they don't know the score. Their big men will starve to death, and the common people die of thirst. Sheol developed a huge appetite, swallowing people non-stop, big people and little people alike, down that gully, to say nothing of all the drunks. The down and out on a par with the high and mighty, windbag boasters crumple, flaccid as a punctured bladder. But by working justice, God of the angel armies will be a mountain. By working righteousness, holy God will show what holy is. And lambs will graze as if they owned the place. Kids and calves right at home in the ruins. Doomed to you who use lies to sell evil, who haul sin to market by the truckload, who say, what's God waiting for? Let him get a move on so we can see it. Whatever the Holy of Israel has cooked up, we'd like to check it out. Doomed to you who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness in place of light and light in place of darkness, who substitute bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Doomed to you who think you're so smart, who hold such a high opinion of yourselves. All you're good at is drinking. Champion boozers who collect trophies from drinking bouts and then line your pockets with bribes from the guilty while you violate the rights of the innocent. But they won't get by with it. As fire eats stubble and dry grass goes up in smoke, their souls will atrophy, their achievements crumble into dust. Because they said no to the revelation of God of the angel armies would have nothing to do with the Holy of Israel. That's why God flamed out in anger against His people, reached out and knocked them down. The mountains trembled as their dead bodies piled up in the streets. But even after that, He was still angry, His fist still raised, ready to hit them again. He raises a flag, signaling a distant nation, whistles for people at the ends of the earth. Here they come, on the run. None drag their feet, no one stumbles, no one sleeps or dawdles. Shirts are on and pants buckled, every boot is spit-polished and tied. Their arrows are sharp, bows strung, the hooves of their horses shod, chariot wheels greased. Roaring like a pride of lions, the full-throated roars of young lions, they growl and seize their prey, dragging it off. No rescue for that one. They'll roar and roar and roar on that day, like the roar of ocean billows. Look as long and hard as you like at that land, you'll see nothing but darkness and trouble. Every light in the sky will be blacked out by the clouds. Chapter 6. Holy, holy, holy. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Master sitting on a throne, high, exalted, and the train of his robes filled the temple. Angel seraphs hovered above him, each with 6 wings. With 2 wings they covered their faces, with 2 their feet, and with 2 they flew. And they called back and forth one to the other, Holy, holy, holy is God of the angel armies. His bright glory fills the whole earth. The foundations trembled at the sound of the angel voices, and then the whole house filled with smoke. I said, Doom, it's doomsday. I'm as good as dead. Every word I've ever spoken is tainted, blasphemous even. And the people I live with talk the same way, using words that corrupt and desecrate. And here I've looked God in the face, the King, God of the angel armies. Then one of the angel seraphs flew to me. He held a live coal that he had taken with tongs from the altar. He touched my mouth with the coal and said, Look, this coal has touched your lips. Gone your guilt, your sins wiped out. And then I heard the voice of the Master. Whom shall I send? Who will go for us? I spoke up. I'll go. Send me. He said, Go and tell this people. Listen hard, but you aren't going to get it. Look hard, but you won't catch on. Make these people blockheads with fingers in their ears and blindfolds on their eyes, but they won't see a thing, won't hear a word. So they won't have a clue about what's going on, and yes, so they won't turn around and be made whole. Astonished, I said, Master, how long is this to go on? He said, until the cities are emptied out, not a soul left in the cities. Houses empty of people, countryside empty of people. Until I, God, get rid of everyone, sending them off, the land totally empty. And even if some should survive, say a tenth, the devastation will start up again. The country will look like pine and oak forest, with every tree cut down, every tree a stump, a huge field of stumps. But there's a holy seed in those stumps. Chapter 7. A virgin will bear a son. During the time that Ahaz, son of Jotham, son of Uzziah, was king of Judah, King Rezin of Aram, and King Pekah, son of Remaliah of Israel, attacked Jerusalem, but the attack sputtered out. When the Davidic government learned that Aram had joined forces with Ephraim, that is, Israel, Ahaz and his people were badly shaken. They shook like trees in the wind. Then God told Isaiah, "Go and meet Ahaz. Take your son Shear-Jashub, a remnant will return, with you. Meet him south of the city, at the end of the aqueduct, where it empties into the upper pool on the road to the public laundry. Tell him, listen, calm down, don't be afraid, and don't panic over those two burnt-out cases, Rezin of Aram and the son of Remaliah. They talk big, but there's nothing to them. Aram, along with Ephraim's son of Remaliah, have plotted to do you harm. They've conspired against you, saying, let's go to war against Judah, dismember it, take it for ourselves, and set the son of Tabeel up as a puppet king over it. But God, the Master, says, it won't happen. Nothing will come of it, because the capital of Aram is Damascus, and the king of Damascus is a mere man, Rezin. As for Ephraim, in 65 years it will be rubble, nothing left of it. The capital of Ephraim is Samaria, and the king of Samaria is the mere son of Remaliah. If you don't take your stand in faith, you won't have a leg to stand on." God spoke again to Ahaz. This time he said, "Ask for a sign from your God. Ask anything. Be extravagant. Ask for the moon." But Ahaz said, "I'd never do that. I'd never make demands like that on God." So Isaiah told him, "Then listen to this, government of David. It's bad enough that you make people tired with your pious, timid hypocrisies, but now you're making God tired. So the Master is going to give you a sign anyway. Watch for this. A girl who is presently a virgin will get pregnant. She'll bear a son and name him Emmanuel, God with us. By the time the child is 12 years old, able to make moral decisions, the threat of war will be over. Relax, those two kings that have you so worried will be out of the picture. But also be warned, God will bring on you and your people and your government a judgment worse than anything since the time the kingdom split, when Ephraim left Judah. The king of Assyria is coming. That's when God will whistle for the flies at the headwaters of Egypt's Nile and whistle for the bees in the land of Assyria. They'll come and infest every nook and cranny of this country. There'll be no getting away from them. And that's when the Master will take the razor rented from across the Euphrates, the king of Assyria no less, and shave the hair off your heads and genitals, leaving you shamed, exposed, and denuded. He'll shave off your beards while he's at it. It will be a time when survivors will count themselves lucky to have a cow and a couple of sheep. At least they'll have plenty of milk. Whoever's left in the land will learn to make do with the simplest foods, curd, say, and honey. But that's not the end of it. This country that used to be covered with fine vineyards, thousands of them, worth millions, will revert to a weed patch. Weeds and thorn bushes everywhere, good for nothing except, perhaps, hunting rabbits. Cattle and sheep will forage as best they can in the fields of weeds, but there won't be a trace of all those fertile and well-tended gardens and fields. Chapter 8. Then God told me, "Get a big sheet of paper and write in indelible ink, 'This belongs to Maher-Shalal-Hash-Baz. Spoils, speeds, plunder, hurries.' I got two honest men, Uriah the priest and Zechariah, son of Jeberechiah, to witness the document. Then I went home to my wife, the prophetess. She conceived and gave birth to a son. God told me, name him Maher-shalal-Hashbaz. Before that baby says daddy or mama, the king of Assyria will have plundered the wealth of Damascus and the riches of Samaria. God spoke to me again, saying, because this people has turned its back on the gently flowing stream of Shiloh and gotten all excited over Rezin and the son of Remaliah, I'm stepping in and facing them with the wild floodwaters of the Euphrates, the king of Assyria and all his fanfare, a river and flood bursting its banks, pouring into Judah, sweeping everything before it, water up to your necks, a huge wingspan of a raging river. Oh, Emmanuel, spreading across your land. But face the facts, all you oppressors, and then wring your hands. Listen, all of you, far and near. Prepare for the worst and wring your hands. Yes, prepare for the worst and wring your hands. Plan and plot all you want. Nothing will come of it. All your talk is mere talk, empty words, because when all is said and done, the last word is Emmanuel, God with us. A boulder blocking your way. God spoke strongly to me, grabbed me with both hands, and warned me not to go along with his people. He said, don't be like this people, always afraid somebody is plotting against them. Don't fear what they fear. Don't take on their worries. If you're going to worry, worry about the holy. Fear God of the angel armies. The holy can be either a hiding place or a boulder blocking your way. The rock standing in the willful way of both houses of Israel. A barbed wire fence preventing trespass to the citizens of Jerusalem. Many of them are going to run into that rock and get their bones broken, get tangled up in that barbed wire, and not get free of it. Gather up the testimony, preserve the teaching for my followers, while I wait for God as long as he remains in hiding, while I wait and hope for him. I stand my ground and hope. I and the children God gave me as signs to Israel, warning signs and hope signs from God of the angel armies, who makes his home in Mount Zion. When people tell you, try out the fortune tellers, consult the spiritualists, why not tap into the spirit world, get in touch with the dead? Tell them, no, we're going to study the scriptures. People who try the other ways get nowhere, a dead end. Frustrated and famished, they try one thing after another. When nothing works out, they get angry, cursing first this God and then that one, looking this way and that, up, down, and sideways, and seeing nothing. A blank wall, an empty hole. They end up in the dark with nothing. Chapter 9. A child has been born for us. But there'll be no darkness for those who are in trouble. Earlier, he did bring the land of Zebulun and Naphtali into disrepute. But the time is coming when he'll make that whole area glorious. The road along the sea, the country past the Jordan, international Galilee. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. For those who lived in a land of deep shadow, light. Sunbursts of light. You repopulated the nation. You expanded its joy. Oh, they're so glad in your presence. Festival joy. The joy of a great celebration, sharing rich gifts and warm greetings. The abuse of oppressors and cruelty of tyrants. All their whips and cudgels and curses is gone, done away with. A deliverance as surprising and sudden as Gideon's old victory over Midian. The boots of all those invading troops, along with their shirts soaked with innocent blood, will be piled in a heap and burned, a fire that will burn for days. For a child has been born for us, the gift of a son for us. He'll take over the running of the world. His names will be Amazing Counselor, Strong God, Eternal Father, Prince of Wholeness. His ruling authority will grow, and there'll be no limits to the wholeness he brings. He'll rule from the historic David throne over that promised kingdom. He'll put that kingdom on a firm footing and keep it going with fair dealing and right living, beginning now and lasting always. The zeal of God of the angel armies will do all this. God answered fire with fire. The master sent a message against Jacob. It landed right on Israel's doorstep. All the people soon heard the message. Ephraim and the citizens of Samaria. But they were a proud and arrogant bunch. They dismissed the message, saying, "Things aren't that bad. We can handle anything that comes. If our buildings are knocked down, we'll rebuild them bigger and finer. If our forests are cut down, we'll replant them with finer trees." So God incited their adversaries against them, stirred up their enemies to attack. From the east, Arameans. From the west, Philistines. They made hash of Israel. But even after that, he was still angry, his fists still raised, ready to hit them again. But the people paid no mind to him who hit them, didn't seek God of the angel armies. So God hacked off Israel's head and tail, palm branch and reed, both in the same day. The big head elders were the head, the lying prophets were the tail. Those who were supposed to lead this people led them down blind alleys, and those who followed the leaders ended up lost and confused. That's why the master lost interest in the young men, had no feeling for their orphans and widows. All of them were godless and evil, talking filth and folly. And even after that, he was still angry, his fists still raised, ready to hit them again. Their wicked lives raged like an out-of-control fire, the kind that burns everything in its path. Trees and bushes, weeds and grasses, filling the skies with smoke. God of the angel armies answered fire with fire, set the whole country on fire, turned the people into consuming fires, consuming one another in their lusts. Appetites insatiable, stuffing and gorging themselves left and right with people and things. But still, they starved. Not even their children were safe from their rapacious hunger. Manasseh ate Ephraim, and Ephraim Manasseh. And then the two ganged up against Judah. And after that, he was still angry, his fists still raised, ready to hit them again. Chapter 10. You who legislate evil. Doom to you who legislate evil, who make laws that make victims, laws that make misery for the poor, that rob my destitute people of dignity, exploiting defenseless widows, taking advantage of homeless children. What will you have to say on Judgment Day when doomsday arrives out of the blue? Who will you get to help you? What good will your money do you? A sorry sight you'll be then, huddled with the prisoners, or just some corpses stacked in the street. Even after all this, God is still angry, his fists still raised, ready to hit them again. Doom to Assyria. Doom to Assyria, weapon of my anger. My wrath is a cudgel in his hands. I send him against the godless nation, against the people I'm angry with. I command him to strip them clean, rob them blind, and then push their faces in the mud and leave them. But Assyria has another agenda. He has something else in mind. He's out to destroy utterly, to stamp out as many nations as he can. Assyria says, "Aren't my commanders all kings? Can't they do whatever they like? Didn't I destroy Calno as well as Carchemish, Hamath as well as Arpad, level Samaria as I did Damascus? I've eliminated kingdoms full of gods, far more impressive than anything in Jerusalem and Samaria. So what's to keep me from destroying Jerusalem in the same way I destroyed Samaria and all her god idols? When the master has finished dealing with Mount Zion and Jerusalem, he'll say, now it's Assyria's turn. I'll punish the bragging arrogance of the king of Assyria, his high and mighty posturing, the way he goes around saying, I've done all this by myself. I know more than anyone. I've wiped out the boundaries of whole countries. I've walked in and taken anything I wanted. I charged in like a bull and toppled their kings from their thrones. I reached out my hand and took all that they treasured as easily as a boy taking a bird's eggs from a nest. Like a farmer gathering eggs from the henhouse, I gathered the world in my basket. And no one so much as fluttered a wing, or squawked, or even chirped. Does an axe take over from the one who swings it? Does a saw act more important than the sawyer? As if a shovel did its shoveling by using a ditch digger, as if a hammer used the carpenter to pound nails. Therefore, the master, God of the angel armies, will send a debilitating disease on his robust Assyrian fighters. Under the canopy of God's bright glory, a fierce fire will break out. Israel's light will burst into a conflagration. The holy will explode into a firestorm, and in one day burn to cinders every last Assyrian thorn bush. God will destroy the splendid trees and lush gardens. The Assyrian body and soul will waste away to nothing, like a disease-ridden invalid. A child could count what's left of the trees on the fingers of his 2 hands. And on that day also, what's left of Israel, the ragtag survivors of Jacob, will no longer be fascinated by abusive, battering Assyria. They'll lean on God, the holy, yes, truly. The ragtag remnant, what's left of Jacob, will come back to the strong God. Your people Israel were once like the sand on the seashore, but only a scattered few will return. Destruction is ordered, brimming over with righteousness. For the Master, God of the angel armies, will finish here what he started all over the globe. Therefore, the Master, God of the angel armies, says, my dear, dear people who live in Zion, don't be terrorized by the Assyrians when they beat you with clubs and threaten you with rods like the Egyptians once did. In just a short time, my anger against you will be spent, and I'll turn my destroying anger on them. I, God of the angel armies, will go after them with a cat-o'-nine tails and finish them off decisively, as Gideon downed Midian on the rock Oreb, as Moses turned the tables on Egypt. On that day, Assyria will be pulled off your back, and the yoke of slavery lifted from your neck. Assyria is on the move, up from Rimmon, on to Aiah, through Migron, with a bivouac at Michmash. They've crossed the pass, set camp at Geba for the night. Ramah trembles with fright. Gibeah of Saul has run off. Cry for help, daughter of Gallim. Listen to her, Laisha. Do something, Anathoth. Medmena takes to the hills. The people of Gibeon flee in panic. The enemy is soon at Nob, nearly there. Inside of the city, he shakes his fist at the mount of dear daughter Zion, the hill of Jerusalem. But now watch this. The Master, God of the angel armies, swings his axe and lops the branches, chops down the giant trees, lays flat the towering forest on the march. His axe will make toothpicks of that forest, that Lebanon-like army, reduced to kindling. Chapter 11. A green shoot from Jesse's stump. A green shoot will sprout from Jesse's stump. From his roots, a budding branch. The life-giving Spirit of God will hover over him, the Spirit that brings wisdom and understanding, the Spirit that gives direction and builds strength, the Spirit that instills knowledge and fear of God. Fear of God will be all his joy and delight. He won't judge by appearances, won't decide on the basis of hearsay. He'll judge the needy by what is right, render decisions on earth's poor with justice. His words will bring everyone to awed attention. A mere breath from his lips will topple the wicked. Each morning, he'll pull on sturdy work clothes and boots and build righteousness and faithfulness in the land. A living knowledge of God. The wolf will romp with the lamb. The leopard sleep with the kid. Calf and lion will eat from the same trough, and a little child will tend them. Cow and bear will graze the same pasture. Their calves and cubs grow up together, and the lion eats straw like the ox. The nursing child will crawl over rattlesnake dens. The toddler stick his hand down the hole of a serpent. Neither animal nor human will hurt or kill on my holy mountain. The whole earth will be brimming with knowing